You're watching Public Comment, a vlog by Sean O'Connor, which focuses on politics, culture, and self. To what can I attribute the confusion over the decades plaguing me with respect to matters of career? So many things happen to interest me. In the broadest sense, I suppose we could perhaps characterize my condition as culture transfixion syndrome, maybe. My father, who was a psychologist, actually hypothesized that I suffered from attention deficit disorder. Ironically, now I'm the opposite of the ADD type. I enjoy hyper-focus to the point that the slightest distraction irritates me like nails on a chalkboard. Even innocent things like a text message alert from my cell phone while I'm reading and taking notes on the news. Anyway, my point is that in my utter fascination with life and culture, naturally, well, I'd hope you'd grant that this would be natural, I like envisioning cultural improvements. Better movies, better politics, better literature, better philosophy. So how does one pick from that lot when one wants, in the broadest sense, to conceptualize what it might mean to help and do one's part in advancing humanity towards what we like to think of as a better world? Yes, since I was a kid, I've had lofty ambitions, though in those days, perhaps those ambitions were sometimes a little bit more egotistical, I admit it, marred by my sense of utter and complete incompetence. I suppose the perfect elixir was the dream, the daydream, that one day I might get to be the opposite. You know, day in and day out, envying like mad hell the people you think look so much better than you, who are so much smarter than you, who come from so much more money than you. Of course, you might, in this context, dream of something that feels better, right? I think even when I used to want to be president of the United States, at least the first time, I believe that was part of the motivation. In part, I just wanted to believe I really could achieve it. When you have the bizarre notion that everyone around you is just inherently better than you, if you have a certain kind of defense mechanism, you want to think you could be as good. Maybe even sometimes you want to think I could be better. To feel like you are better, or even the best. Have you ever, as they say, been there and done that? You know, wished for the feeling of true excellence, the kind that wins you praise, money, and a sense of power. But at some point, and I can't say exactly when, I began to change and care more about just wanting to prove to myself I could acquire and develop a basic sense of competence and critical thinking ability. One reason I've always been so shy is that I knew, at the very least, but I didn't really know how to think about things critically. How to process, for example, if we were to apply this to today, the latest news that Google said to hell with Huawei, and what does that mean? I say, go Google, go. Right on. God bless China and all, but hey, I'm not for enriching those who imprison critics and Uyghur Muslims just for being critics and Uyghur Muslims. And I think Google demonstrates some sense of integrity. Isn't that a nice word? Integrity. Even if in theory it's all just good PR, God, isn't it awful to entertain that one might default to that kind of cynicism? Or is it just reality? I don't know if it's good PR or if it has anything to do with PR or if, in fact, that's just how they think and feel at Google. But I say, even if in theory it's just good PR to suspend business with Huawei and the protest isn't entirely genuine, you know what? Google didn't have to make that kind of stand. Now, there's plenty I don't know about Google, but I know I respect that they're not afraid to at least bring pause to Huawei and here force reflection. Anyway, my point is that just a few years ago, I would not have had the courage to even contemplate technology news because I lacked the confidence. And so now, to get psychological with you here, it would seem my sense of ambition is transforming. Focusing less on maybe subconscious needs to believe I can grow more valuable than I believed I was, and now I can focus more on my very direct interests. Is direct the right word? Is that what I'm looking for? I'm interested in thought in a very cut and dry sense of the concept. Personal thoughts as one navigates through life, interpreting and processing the surrounding culture, and acting ethically, thinking logically, talking straight, as some might put it. Straight as in straightforward, not heterosexual. Though I am heterosexual, but I have nothing but love for and support for the LGBTQ movement, sexual liberation, and all of that. I should tell you, the career aspiration confusion that I have suffered from, though, was much more complicated than just superiority complex type things. Hey, speaking of this, on a quick digression here, if you want to know the value of an English degree or taking a few literature courses, it's understanding in a visceral way, beyond the psychology research and scholarly articles out there, the complexity of human nature. I think we are rather rarely so 1, 2, 3, or 4, etc. dimensional. Even when I've been at my most belligerent and condescending, would you believe me if I insisted to you that indeed I had good intentions? Really. Even if my thinking has suffered severely from extreme irrationality and subjectivity, I've usually had good intentions and usually desired deeply to do my part in making this a better world. Even in my young days, my acting days, when I wanted to be a movie star, I played an Auschwitz survivor and wrote a one-man movie about this Auschwitz survivor that I played. And my goal, the purpose, was to raise awareness about the importance of never forgetting the Holocaust. I also played a cocaine addict, and my purpose then was to raise awareness for drug addiction. Even in my love for the Bee Gees, by the way, their music is about romantic love as opposed to anger, hatred, despondency, these kinds of things. And I wanted to always promote those kinds of values, that kind of worldview, that good feeling about life. So you get these lofty hopes for the world in your mind, right? And you wonder, well, I don't know if you do, but I have. I wondered, what is the best way for me to make this a better world based on my understanding of what a better world might be? And the little things can mess it up, ladies and gentlemen. For example, at times, I've not wanted to be a poet simply because, well, I knew very few people actually care about poetry and actually read poetry. Therefore, all of my efforts would be in vain. At times, I've wanted to write political commentaries, but I would stop because, well, unless I've got a column in the New York Times or the Washington Post, or I'm on MSNBC like Rachel Maddow, who's gonna care? It's not like the New York Times is gonna go and publish my Facebook note. It's not like my opinion holds so much weight. So, I mean, when your ambitions are so intense, and for a while you're convinced of a particular strategy by which to express your ethical hopes, only to find that some little bit of information suggests, seemingly credibly to you, that your strategy and your plan is ultimately useless, that no one will care. Isn't that the worst part? Feeling, believing that no one will care? Not one person in that massive din of competing voices? Or that suddenly it occurred to you that in fact, if you look at it from this other perspective, you can make more money doing X, reach more people doing Y, keep your soul doing Z, etc. Could I please get an amen on this one, folks? And in the meantime, as I'm hoping that some among ye out there might relate, have a wonderful day, and I shall chat with y'all again tomorrow.